NFL insider Jonathan Jones in here. JJ, what could be the fallout depending on what is found from the Players Association looking into the injury to Tua's head?
Yeah, so you said it all right there. Obviously, he injured his back, according to the Dolphins, in an earlier play. And then, of course, he gets hit and his back loosened up. And he said that Mike McDaniel said that he felt like Gumby, and that's why he stumbled down to the ground. He went to the locker room immediately after that with about the 2-minute warning there at the end of the first half. And there, a team physician as well as an unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant, basically an independent doctor, would evaluate Tua. And they would then be able to determine, according to the league's concussion checklist, that his stumbling was not due to any sort of neurological cause, but rather it would have been due to that back injury that he was said to have suffered. The NFLPA initiated that review very shortly after the Dolphins' victory. We're less than 24 hours after they even got word out that they would be initiating that review. What could wind up happening, of course, really kind of one of two options. Either they find that the Dolphins and Tua and everyone involved was honest and that it looked bad, but that it actually was just the appearance, or of course they could find some sort of impropriety, and then from that point some very serious penalties would be levied. But we are very, very, very far away from having to determine any sort of fallout on that, but imagine the review will take some time.
Good to see him able to come back and compete. Whether or not it was a head or a back, we shall see. Let's go to some guys who may not be playing for some time. Mac Jones in particular suffered what is being called now a severe high ankle sprain in that loss to the Ravens. What's his status? How bad is this? And is he going to avoid surgery?
Well, he certainly is not going to be playing this week. We don't need the Patriots to come out and officially diagnose this to know that he is not going to be facing the Green Bay Packers this week. It will be the Brian Hoyer show for the New England Patriots this week, probably at least a month, very likely more than that. We know that high ankle sprains are usually no less than a 5-week injury. And then if we're hearing the word severe, go ahead and start tacking on some weeks to that. The Patriots, Bill Belichick, didn't have any update for the media earlier today in multiple appearances with the media. Mac Jones scheduled to be speaking with reporters later on this afternoon. Perhaps he sheds some light on it. Very unlikely that he will. A short-term IR stint is very, very likely for Mac Jones. With these IR rules, you can come off of it after 4 weeks. It seems a fait accompli that Mac Jones is going to be missing at least that much time. So whether the Patriots make that designation later today or at some point this week, at least before the Saturday deadline in the afternoon, would expect Mac Jones to wind up on the IR with a chance to return in a designated time that, as they continue to evaluate, will be made more clear.
Any chance that Bill Belichick decides to go with the rookie Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky instead of the veteran Hoyer?
Hard to imagine, certainly in this first week, without Mac Jones, that he would be turning to Bailey Zappi. Still plenty to learn for the young rookie there. And so you're going to get that veteran leadership from Brian Hoyer. Maybe Bailey Zappi has a higher upside than Brian Hoyer, but against a Green Bay Packers unit, you're not going to be throwing the rookie out there to the wolves. It will be Brian Hoyer this week.
Maybe in the games to follow, because the schedule does lighten up a bit after that game against the Packers. All right, so it's a high ankle sprain, maybe a severe high ankle sprain for Mac Jones. Same injury for 49ers offensive tackle Trent Williams. He limped off the field in the loss last night to Denver. Is it the same situation with him, or is it a bigger deal because he has a much bigger frame?
Yeah, difficult to say, obviously, but when you have 300-plus pounds above that ankle, then, of course, it's always going to be more difficult. Trent Williams, the sort of stalwart there along that offensive line. When you go back to the preseason with the San Francisco 49ers, there were some ups and downs with that offense, ups and downs with Trey Lance, of course. But one thing that the 49ers really couldn't get a great read on was what the interior of their offensive line, and more specifically, their left guard position, was going to look like in week 1 and beyond, because Trent Williams didn't play in the preseason. They got him in there, and things started to sort of even out along the offensive line for the Niners. Still had their offensive issues, of course, but the line, things seemed much better than they were in the preseason. Now you're going to be very likely without Trent Williams for some time. I don't know if we're talking IR just yet for Trent. You probably don't want to put him on there unless it's a very severe injury, just because you want to hold out hope that you can get him back sooner rather than later. But he's going to have further imaging done today, I was told. A determination on his status should be made very soon.
Only one winless team left, JJ, and it's not the team anybody would have picked. Josh McDaniels' Raiders off to an 0-3 start. What's the main issue right now?
It's weird because really the main issue, Chris, is that they haven't played a complete football game. You know, you go back to week 1 and Derek Carr played about as poorly at quarterback as any established veteran quarterback in the league has played so far this season. You go to week 2, they had every opportunity to beat the Arizona Cardinals in that game. They gave up 16 points. That's 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions to then go into regulation. Maybe got a little greedy trying to pass once they were trying to get into field goal range. In hindsight, of course, you don't throw that football to Hunter Renfrow. You rush 3 times and you try to kick that field goal perhaps. And then this past week where they were missing Denzel Perryman, the linebacker there in the middle of the defense, and so the linebackers didn't play all that well. They didn't play well offensively in the red zone, and so it's a little thing here and there. It's not sort of that easy fix. It's not something that you can say, oh, it's just our red zone defense, we have to clamp down. Oh, it's just our third down offense, we have to tighten up there, and that is what concerns me for the Raiders. However, when you look at their schedule, you know, I see some winnable games. I see some manageable games on their schedule. Do they have some tough teams? Of course they do. Everyone in this NFL today is going to be a hard out, especially when we have more close games than we ever had before in this league. So it's not going to be a cakewalk. However, when I look at this and I look at the history of teams, 157 of them since 1990 who have started 0-3, and that only 4 have gone to the playoffs, that none since the 2018 Houston Texans have done so. I say, listen, the Raiders have the personnel there. I believe they have the coaching. This isn't a bad team necessarily. They just aren't winning the games that last season, frankly, they won. And a lot of that has to do with some good fortune, right? I mean, Derek Carr had so many comeback drives and fourth quarter comebacks the last season, game-winning drives, I think 6 last season. That magic has sort of left the Raiders this year, just like it has seemingly left the Cincinnati Bengals so far this season. Maybe it comes back around. Their schedule through Thanksgiving is manageable, but they have no more margin for error.
The magic left the Pro Bowl a long, long time ago, if there were ever any magic involved in that. Today, we were finding out that the Pro Bowl is no longer going to exist in its current form. What is the NFL going to replace it with?
Yeah, so obviously that game has not been very competitive for some time. And so the NFL, after consulting with players, coaches, even fans and executives, they have decided that they are going to make the game a flag football game, which had basically been touch football anyway the past couple of years. You know, the NFL has tweaked the Pro Bowl and the product there for some time. Remember, it wasn't AFC, NFC for a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 years. They tried it out where it was sort of a fantasy draft, Team Jerry Rice versus Team Michael Irvin or Team Deion Sanders, etc. They have sort of soft launched or trial ballooned some potential rule changes, and so it has been a trial ground for some time with the NFL, and so now they have had a skills competition throughout the week. That will continue. That'll probably be one of the crown jewels of the week, and I think that we all as football fans enjoy those skills competitions. Look forward to learning more about that as these weeks go along and the NFL gives more information. But that flag football game is going to be one that, listen, folks are still going to tune in. It will be fun, and the NFL, in its global push for dominance, worldwide dominance, they are trying to introduce more flag football. Flag football was introduced in the World Games that was held over the summer. There's a push to get flag football in the Olympics, though it may be in very nascent stage right now. And so if you can get fans more comfortable with professional, semi-professional athletes playing flag football, as evidenced by what we're going to see in Vegas with the Pro Bowl next year, that could help push it forward on the global stage.
Jonathan Jones with us here on HQ. He'll have much more leading up to tonight's Monday Night Football game between the Giants and the Cowboys a little bit later in the evening. We have wall-to-wall coverage leading up to kickoff, over 2 hours of coverage. Brady Quinn, Pete Prisco, Charles Davis, Danny Cannell, Jamie Eisenberg. List goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
Just like you,
Yeah,
right now,
yes,
and
exactly.
we would pay money to make you stop doing it.
Okay.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.